Let's imagine you're 82 years old. Most of your friends are retired and taking life slowly, but you decide to do the opposite. Instead of Sudoku or crosswords, you pick up a brand new language. Not French or Spanish or any other spoken language. I'm talking about Swift, Apple's coding language used to build apps. Well, that's exactly what Masako Wakamiya did. After retiring from a 40-year career at a bank in Japan, she found herself frustrated. Most apps were designed for young people with fast thumbs and perfect eyesight. But she built her own, a game called Hinada, based on Japan's Dole Festival traditions. At first, her family thought she was joking, but within months, she had her app live on the App Store. At 82, she became one of the world's oldest app developers. Even Apple's CEO Tim Cook invited her to speak at their conference, telling her she was an inspiration. Masako didn't just learn how to code, she rewired her brain. And neuroscience tells us that when we take on completely new and demanding challenges, the brain actually builds new pathways. It's called neuroplasticity, and the brain adapts, even in our 80s. And that's the focus of today's episode. Because in a world where AI can do more and more for us, our real edge isn't about knowing every tool. It's about being willing to rewire, to think differently, to take on new challenges that feel uncomfortable. Masako's story is a reminder that it's never too late to rewire your brain. The question is, are you ready to?
From the city of Peaky Blinders, Birmingham, England, I would like to introduce you to Paddy Danda.
As the world becomes more automated and the robots take over, being an effective product thinker still requires that human touch. Join me in a mission to champion human skills to help product teams boost creativity, enhance collaboration, and communicate with clarity. So pull up a chair, grab a samosa or two, and make yourself very uncomfortable. Dear friend, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Superpower School podcast. I'm your host, Paddy Danda, and on today's show, I have an amazing guest. I have David Wood, who is the Glenn D. Ardis Professor of Accounting at Brigham Young University, where he focuses on integrating emerging technologies into the curriculum. A prolific scholar with over 200 publications and a recently released book, Rewiring Your Mind for AI. He is also a leading voice in accounting, and I'm definitely terrible with numbers, so I'm glad I have an expert with me today. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here with you.
Tell me about Brigham Young University, because it's not a university that I have heard of, because in the UK, we only ever hear of Harvard and MIT and all of these sort of universities. So tell me a bit more about the university first.
So Brigham Young University, also commonly is called BYU. It's a private university in the state of Utah. It is sponsored by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so we have a dual mission of educating spiritual and, temporal knowledge, and we focus on both. So we have about 35,000 students, primarily focused on undergraduate education. So we don't have the PhD programs that nearly as many as other schools do, but really a bright, talented student body, and it's a joy to teach here.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. So in the morning, you could be learning about religion. In the afternoon, you're doing some cool stuff with AI. That's a real interesting mix. I love that.
Well, and trying to integrate the two. And really, if you start talking about AI, many of the questions about it come down to moral, religious questions, like who are we? What are we doing with this? How far should we go? How far should we not? And so bringing a religious lens to those discussions can really enhance the conversation and how we should move forward.
Yeah, that's fascinating, isn't it? When we hear certain thought leaders talking about AI, I mean, Mo Godat, I always talk about Mo, who's
previously used to work for Google X. He said, why are we looking for UFOs up in space when actually we're creating our own aliens right here and now?
I haven't heard that one. Yeah, it's very much true.
It's like a new life form we're creating. And I think we haven't quite woken up to that fact yet, but it feels every day, it feels like we're getting there.
Yeah. And it's not just, there's the chat bots and that sort of thing, but you start looking at robotics and how they're putting AI into that. There's some fascinating questions on what does it mean to be human? And so I love the lens that I have here at BYU to explore that, not just from an intellectual, but also from a spiritual perspective and have those discussions and debates.
Nice. And so in good tradition on the podcast, I always ask my guest what superpower we're bringing to the episode. So what are you bringing to this one?
So can I tell a brief story?
Absolutely. I love stories.
When you mention superpower, I think back to my doctoral program. And if you haven't done a doctoral program, you read a ton. It's just, paper after paper you read and your mind just feels like it's overflowing and you can't stuff anything out. So I used to dream that the superpower I would have is I could touch a book and know everything in it. And I would just be able to remember everything. And as I've thought about that superpower, ChatGPT, AI, these Gen AI models are a lot like that it's touched all the books and all of the writing. And so really thinking about AI superpowers, to me, the ability and ubiquitous access to knowledge, real time, anywhere, is a new superpower that I don't just have, all of us have.
Love it. Love it. And yeah, I wish I had that superpower too, because I'm terrible with reading. So that would definitely help me.
Every student dreams about it when exams come.
It kind of reminds me of, you remember the movie Short Circuit, where the robot's like just trying to get more input and just flicking through all the books and just wants to be fed all this information. I used to think, if only we could read like that. And yeah, maybe when we get those chips from Elon, those extra chips
embedded in our head.
Yeah.
Well, and so it's not embedded in our head now, but you think first when Google search came out, it was a step in that direction, because then I could easily search the whole internet and find things very quickly. AI is just another step in that now I say something and I don't find it, but it actually produces it for me. And so it really is a transformational superpower, which is why I wrote the book. Because we need to change our mindsets. We need to be thinking differently now that we have this really powerful tool that knows basically everything humanity has ever known.
And so the book, as we mentioned, is called Rewiring Your Mind for AI. Tell me more about that. What does that mean?
Good. So I guess let me tell you why I wrote it, and that kind of answers the question. I was finishing up a consulting engagement. I was driving home and I thought, you need to write a book. And I thought, what in the world? I'm so busy. Why would I write a book? And just the thought I'm having in my mind is, you go do these trainings and teach people some basics of how to do prompt engineering and, the mechanics of how to use it. But then the company sort of a week or two later, it's like nobody had made any change. And what I realized is it's not enough just to know how to use it. You have to change how you think so that you can use it correctly. So the whole book is this idea of how do we need to think differently now that AI is here, and how should it change our lives?
And how should we think differently? Because that's the big question for many of us.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go to Classic Marketer, buy the book. No, just kidding. No, there's a lot of different things. And so each chapter sort of unpacks a different one. Let me start as an educator. Let me start about learning. Think how transformational AI has been to learning. I stand up in a classroom in front of, 50 to 100 students. Every student now knows more on every topic than I do. And when was that in the history of the world? The professor was supposed to have all the answers and know everything. And so you start thinking, well, what does education look like if my primary purpose isn't to teach them something new? It's to help motivate them. It's help to inspire them. It's to help guide and direct them rather than have all the answers. I have to help them realize what's the question and then teach them how to go answer it on their own. And that's now possible on a scale that wasn't possible before.
That is incredible, isn't it? I actually had an example where I had a super bright cohort and I was delivering some training and I made a statement, and this one bright spark decides to quickly Google it. This was actually, it was actually just before ChatGPT, and he Googled it and he put up his hand and he went, "You're wrong." And I said, "What?" And he pretty much read what he had seen on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, happened to be on Wikipedia. So luckily for me, I could stand behind what I had said, because obviously Wikipedia is a matter of opinions, isn't it? It's a bunch of people. They're not world experts on the topic, but it's a community kind of approach. And when I explained to him that you shouldn't read everything, or you shouldn't believe everything on the internet, it was a real lesson, because it was actually factually incorrect online. But it does spark another question around AI, right? We've seen it so often where it's giving us either the wrong answer or a sort of a, well, we call hallucination, or a hallucinated answer. Like, when we talk about changing mindset, there's that aspect as well, right? Like, we've got to stop trusting and start being more critical. Would that be another fair mindset shift?
That we discussed that one, trust but verify. But the challenge is, it's not a static one-time thing. So that student may have been wrong this time, but in 2 weeks or one semester, that AI is probably going to be right. And so there's this challenge of, what do you believe and what do you not believe? And that's a really hard space to be in as a learner, because you want to just be taught, the truth. Now, in some situations, there is a truth. If you do mathematics, this is going to always equal that. But there's a lot of things. You start thinking about political science or international relations, and there's different perspectives. And so helping students and helping all of us learn that AI is powerful. It can give us right answers. Occasionally it will be wrong, and it's getting better at that. But then how do you use it differently? You don't often, type in, okay, how do we solve the Ukraine conflict? But you might put in something like, well, help me understand the different perspectives of the Ukraine conflict, from the Ukrainian perspective, from the Russian perspective, from the European perspective, the US perspective. And you can help inform yourself and use AI to help transform how you think, and not just get a quick answer. I think that's the other big one we have a problem with. A lot of people want to just put in something and get a quick answer and be done. And that's not how the world works. It's much more complicated than that. So helping people realize you use AI to inform and help you become better, but it's not going to have the answer to everything.
And so, which side of the fence do you sit on? Are you sort of hopeful about the future and excited with this world of AI, or do you feel like we're going to lose our human touch?
Yes. The answer is yes. So I'm incredibly excited because there are so many cool things that are already being done, and people are working on and trying it. It unleashes abilities that are latent in all of us. And I'll give you an example of that. I'm a creative person in my mind, but I have no talent whatsoever. I can't draw, I can't paint, I can't sing, I can't dance. But with AI, I can take those creative thoughts and it can help transform it and bring to life my creativity, which I couldn't do before. So that to me is a superpower that's unlocked because of AI. Now, the other side of that is equally terrifying. I can take the worst of humanity and give them a powerful tool that they can now unleash anything that they think for evil and terrible purposes. And therein is the hard part. AI is this incredible tool that separates you to either make you phenomenal or make you terrible. And you have a choice, and that's going to be, I think, the real determinant is, people, are they naturally good or are they naturally bad? And it's going to escalate those tendencies.
Yeah. And that's obviously the scary side of things. And then I think the other big scary side is job security, right? Like, I was reading, was it yesterday, I read a report by one of the big research firms, and they were talking about how already in the US, the young generation, there's already been a shortage of jobs now. Like, they're declining since ChatGPT came along. Like, they've seen a remarkable change. Whereas people that are mid-career, they said there's an overall positive impact. And it could be that whilst at the moment AI is mature enough to do some of those junior tasks and junior type of work, it's not sophisticated enough to do that mid-career work just yet. So for that reason, we're still needed, or I fall into that bracket, and I'm just needed. But I can see in a couple of years, it is going to be, super powerful. And so job security is a real concern. And I think that's a concern for a lot of us, isn't it? Like, what would you say about that?
Yeah. So we always like to think, is this time different? And I don't know if it is or not. And anybody who's making a prediction, they're going to be wrong. It's just, are they in the right ballpark? So I don't have the magic crystal ball that I can say, here's what's going to happen. I just want to be clear on that, and no one does. A couple thoughts. So usually technology in history has always opened up new jobs and new opportunities, but you can't see them. And I think the same thing is with AI. There are going to be jobs on the other side of AI, as I like to say, but we just don't know what they are yet. Now, as we start thinking about what that's going to look like, we have seen traditional roles start to change. Computer programmers have been very heavily hit and that sort of thing, but you're also starting to see a groundswell of entrepreneurship. Because now, okay, I'm not going to go work for a big company programming, but I can start to a startup, and with vibe coding, I can build something on my own so quickly. So it might be that what we see as a transformation from traditional jobs of, I go work for this large corporation, they take care of me, and that's been eroding for some time, to there's going to be a lot more startups, entrepreneurial spirit, and that sort of tendency to happen. Now, if you are an employee, the number one thing to do is, instead of being scared, is jump in and start learning it. This is the easiest technology to learn in the history of the world. If you can say it or type it, you can use it. And so I think that is the most important thing, is start experimenting, start playing with it, start using it, and then you'll be part of the change rather than being completely replaced and not have something to do.
Yeah, that's such great advice, isn't it? As soon as you get your hands on it, it's like my son who's 13, he hasn't really used it in anger just yet. And then the other day, Gemini, so Google's sort of version of ChatGPT, they launched this experiment called Storybook. I don't know if you've come across
Yes.
Storybook. Oh, it was so cool. And basically with Storybook, you just type in a very basic story and then click the button and it will create a whole storybook for you with images, sound, everything. And I just gave him that to play with. He was on it for hours. Oh my God. He created like the most amazing stories. I was the butt of the joke, by the way, like most of the stories.
As every good father should be.
Yeah. I actually might share the link in the show notes for this episode of the story he created. It was terrible. But it just goes to show like how easy it is, for people to just get on and start using it. And I'm sure as you build that curiosity, you'll want to go deeper with certain things. How have you found your students in terms of their mindset? So, you work with young people and you must see a whole plethora of different sort of attitudes, and some probably embrace it, others don't. Like, what are your experiences of that?
Yeah, and I'll speak about students, but I've noticed the exact same patterns in professionals. There's not really a difference. They're just, students are younger, and so they're earlier on. But you do have the tendency for fear. What's going to happen? And I'm scared. You have excitement, the group who's really gung ho and wanting to learn it. You have caution. You have kind of the full emotional response that you can think of. Now, the real key of what we're trying to train students is AI can be transactional or transformational. And what I mean from that is, transactional is a student comes in and you have an essay and they copy the prompt in, they copy the essay in, and they didn't become anything by using it. They just did a transaction, quick, easy, and they never became. And so we really try to focus on, okay, that's one way to use AI, but that's going to hurt you, because eventually I'm not going to ask you to put the prompt in. I'm going to do it myself, and you're not going to have a job. But if they start thinking transformational, then the student says, okay, here's this essay, brainstorm 5 ideas. Well, here's a creative twist. Let me work with it this way. Teach me the history of this, whatever the topic is, and give me more insight. And then they finish their essay and they say, critique it. Help me evaluate it. Give me some different suggestions. So I think one of the mindset changes is, are you going to use this to become, or are you going to just use this to try to get everything done as fast as you can? The people who can embrace it to improve who they are going to be phenomenally valuable, because the stuff they're going to produce, maybe the first time they'll be a little bit off, but then the second, third, fourth time, they're going to just run laps around the people who just, use it to just get the work done and then move on. So I think that is a key mindset, is to have the discipline to go in and say, I'm going to use this to actually help me become better and produce something better than just, well, I'll just get my work done and go and do whatever I want on the side.
And I always, first of all, have a lot of respect for anyone who's written a book. And I mean, you've written tons of publications, as we said in your bio, and I guess every book is a journey, and along the way you find new things, you identify new insights. What was that journey like for you as you started writing this book? Were there any surprises along the way that you found that, before you started it, you had no idea about? It'd be really cool to hear some of those interesting stories.
So the very last chapter of the book, I discuss how I wrote it. And one of the mindsets I bring up is we need to stop looking at AI as this, you're a cheater. And so if in your job, somebody says, oh, I used AI to write this report, everyone kind of snickers and says, oh, that person's not as good. They look down on them. And it's exactly the exact opposite. So in writing the book, I want to bring that out. I used AI to write this book. Absolutely. It was a fully immersive process that combined, we worked together. So I had the ideas, and then I say, flesh this out. Help me think about this. What am I missing? And proofread this, fix this thing. I need an example. Can you help me think through one? Now, ultimately, I was guiding it. And at the end of the day, I take responsibility for everything that was written. But this co-creation process, I wrote the book in 5 weekends, which is just, you can't do that in the old traditional way. But now with AI, you can. Now, whether it's a good book or not, you'll have to see. So far, the readers I've had have enjoyed it and said it's been valuable. But I think that's the mindset shift, that it doesn't take as long to do things that it used to be. We don't have to do it the same way that our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents did. And we can write, we can do so many tasks in new ways that can be better. And that's what gets me excited about AI.
Yeah. Oh, that's incredible. I'm writing a book at the moment, and I am absolutely using AI for the research, etc. And I do find it is incredible. Like you sort of, you make a point and you're like looking for an example or a recent example, and that could take me hours to research and Google and all the rest of it. But very quickly I'm able to get up a short list of examples and then obviously follow through and validate that they are accurate. So I think that's fantastic. 5 weekends. Oh my God, that's crazy. I wish I could work at that rate.
I've been talking a lot. I think I'm closing in on 150 presentations on AI. So you talk a lot about it and it kind of gets in your mind. So it was already written in my mind before I sat down to do it.
Oh, brilliant. And I guess as you were going through that process then, in terms of research and insights that you discovered, was there anything that surprised you there? Like any shocking insights or just useful insights that you found as you were doing your research?
The couple of things that really stand out to me about the space of AI is, we used to talk about computers and how amazing they were because they doubled every 2 years. And AI, I think the current estimate's about somewhere between 5 and 8 months, it doubles in its capabilities. That is transformational. When you stop and think about that, whatever we're doing now, it'll be twice as good before the end of, by the end of the year, roughly. That is just staggering. And so to me, I keep getting surprised. A company, Google will release something, and then Amazon, and then, X will release something, and ChatGPT, and the pace of change is unrelenting, but very, very exciting. So I could go through the examples, but the example today is going to be outdated. In 4 months, it'll be like, oh, that was so long ago. I'll give you an example to me. There was a competition for driverless cars, and it was a number of years ago. And the first time they did it, nothing even got, like 10 miles in and they all died. And then the next year it went better. And now we have driverless cars everywhere and they're phenomenal. Well, you just saw in China, they held the first robotic Olympics, and they had these machines, punching each other, doing a boxing and racing, and they looked hilarious. They were terrible and they barely could do anything. Wait till next year and then wait 1 year after. That to me is the exciting thing I learned, is you have to say the word yet for anything with AI. It's not good yet. it can do this sort of so far. And that to me is what really gets me excited, is seeing the progress and the rate of progress of how fast these things develop.
That's music to my ears, by the way, David, because I always say that as well, in that when I hear people say, well, AI will never do that. And I always say they're missing that golden word right at the end yet, because none of us know. None of us know, right? Even the so-called experts don't know right now. Even they get surprised. I mean, you hear like the godfathers of AI talking on interviews, on podcasts and stuff, and they're saying, you know what? I had no idea it would happen this quickly, and I had no idea it would be used in this way or that way. And I think that's where that human creativity comes into it, and people they take a little bit and then they mash it up with something else, and then all of a sudden you've got this amazing thing that you've created. So yeah, that's totally true, I think. And
That's what gives me so much hope. I'll jump in right there.
yeah,
When we talk about employment in that, give the people the tools and watch the cool things they come up with, because they'll use it in ways that no one ever even considered. I love doing that. One of my assignments with my students is I just say, here's a project. You have to do something with AI and do a presentation. And they're like, well, what am I supposed to do? I'm like, I don't know, but that's the world of AI now. You need to go out and be creative and think and come up with, that's the skill set that matters to be successful. And at first they're kind of scared, but then they get into it and it's so much fun, because they're like, I'm free. I can do whatever I want to make something awesome. And that to me is the real promise of AI, is, wow, I can use this tool to be amazing at podcasting or analyzing sports or writing a book or whatever the case may be. It will help you be better at it.
That's so interesting. My manager sent me a task the other day. We're doing an all-day workshop next week, and he said, Paddy, can you run an icebreaker at the start of the day? So I was trying to come up with ideas, and I've landed on an idea. I'm going to basically ask the group to almost write a story. So they've got to answer 3 big questions, and it's a story about a superpower, as you can guess.
Way to stay on theme.
Yeah, which starts off with, what's your biggest challenge that you've got this year? And then it's a case of, what are some of the things that are blocking you? And then if you had any superpower, how could you overcome this thing? And then there's a bit at the end, which is the ending, to say, well, how would the world look like if this all came true, and how would you feel? Now, my idea is I want to get people to vote for the best story, and then the best one we're going to put through Storybook, the
fun
storybook. And I'm hoping by the end of the workshop I'll have created that into a little mini book for them. But I'm not going to tell them that. That's a surprise, and this episode's not going to go out before then, so that's cool. But like you say, you know, when you set someone a task and you just let them run with it, it's incredible what people can come up with. I just came up with that because I saw this app the other day, and I was like, I'd love to use this in some way. How could I use it? And then as soon as my manager said that, I was like, boom, I'm gonna incorporate it into that thing there. And so, what sort of response have you had from the book? Because you mentioned it seems to be doing well, which is great. I'm really happy. But what have been some of the sort of feedback that you had?
Yeah, so I'll say the positive and then the negative as well. I'm happy to share both. Positive, people really like it because it gives them a language to now talk about this. They get kind of a bigger picture view. The media right now is not doing us a lot of favors. In general, it's either sensationalizing it, kind of Terminator, end of the world, or it's, no, this is completely overhyped. And we use a lot of individual stories to do that. And neither of those is true. It's in between. It is changing the world, but not in either of those two directions. So the book helps you kind of get grounded to understand that. It also, I've got a lot of feedback, it's motivational, in that it's not the doom and gloom, and it's not the, oh, we're going to, solve everything, but it helps them see, oh, this is the real path forward. Now, the negatives, a couple people say it's not as technical as they would like. Absolutely. This is not meant to be a deep dive into the math behind large language models or things of that nature. It's much more at the beginner or intermediate level to get them started. So I think that's kind of where the book sits. Hopefully it's useful. And if there's other feedback, if you read it, send it to me. I like to learn. And I think that's another big takeaway. For me, this AI thing is happening so fast and so much that it's taking communities to figure it out. It's not just solo. But we learn together, we come up with norms together, we start figuring it out together, and I'm fully on board with learning from others because I know I don't know very much.
Oh, no, that's very humble of you to say that. I'm sure you've got a lot more than the likes of myself on this topic. That's fantastic. In terms of, I guess, the future, I know you said you don't have all the answers, but what might be some insights you can bring to the show in terms of the future? Like, what are you seeing? What are some of your predictions for where things are going to go?
Excellent. Boy, this is the fun part. Now it's recorded, so I'll be able to say I was right or I was wrong. I think ChatGPT 5 gave us a glimpse into the near-term future. And what I mean is they now have, you put in your prompt and it comes in and the machine decides which model do I use. I think we're going to see that a lot better, and that we'll develop really fine-tuned models for specific verticals. So if you're doing something in the humanities, there will be a model very well tuned for the history of, Europe. And those questions be answered very well. And if you're doing accounting, you'll see something in that. And I think you're going to see those get much, much better. We have already approached PhD level or surpassed PhD level performance in humans. That's just going to continue. The futurists start talking about what happens when the models start creating their own language that we don't understand. And I don't know how far away that is. But once they can think in a way that we don't even comprehend, and then that's going to be an interesting day, because then the models will produce an output and there is no way that we can back into how they got there. So with some of the reinforcement learning and things they're doing, I think we could start getting closer to that. Now, from a practical level, that was very theoretical, blah, 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 professor talk. From a practical level, you're going to see AI continually embedded in everything. So our Amazon, our Google devices where we ask Alexa for help and those sorts of things, they're going to get a lot smarter soon, because the cost curve's coming down, the carbon footprint's coming down, all of those things, that it will start to be even more ubiquitous. I think we'll start seeing physical and AI merge. You already see that with the Teslas and the Waymos and the driverless cars. You're going to see it in more and more things. You have a pair of glasses on. Pretty soon, every pair of glasses is going to be a smart glass. And it's right there as an assistant with you on everything. Longer term, brain chips, probably eventually we'll see those embedded. And so that you have an AI in your mind at all times helping you. I don't know about that one. I don't know how soon I would sign up for that, but putting on a pair of glasses is a lot less invasive. So if you can think anything in your life that AI would enhance, it's going to be there pretty soon.
Oh, fantastic. I actually had a guest on the show who was part of the original team at Meta, where they launched the Ray-Ban Meta glasses, and she was sharing some insights about that. But yeah, exactly.
What more? I just talked a lot about consumer facing. There will be that. The bigger impact will be behind the scenes, the things you don't see. That's running the power, the electricity, how do you do your accounting and finance function, the marketing function. So there will be more work done that is hidden, that AI is doing that you have no idea is hidden, that AI is doing that you have no
Yeah, and I can't wait for some of that, because I was saying this to my wife the other day. I said, wouldn't it be great to have an AI agent that just looks at all of your annual renewals of insurance and all of these things and just gets it done for you? Because I hate every year having to find cheapest price for this and then trying to get it reduced in price even more, and we waste so much time. And then sometimes other things like booking a holiday, oh my God, it's the most stressful process ever. I do not look forward to doing that. So yeah, come on AI, get on that one. And probably can already do it, but I just haven't found the right technology just yet. So as we approach the end of this episode, David, I'm going to ask you a question that I didn't give you any pre-warning on, but it's another standard question I ask right at the end. Bit of a fun question. If I could give you any superpower to abolish something in the world of work, so something that we want to take out, what would that be? What's the thing that really frustrates you about the world of work?
I think if there was one thing I could take out, it would be selfishness. If we as a people were not selfish, you would solve most of the problems in the world. That comes back a little bit, like I mentioned, I'm at a religious institution, a school, But I see so much of development and progress stop because I'm so worried about me and not what would help others. So if I could remove selfishness, I think we would have a better world. So that would be my off the cuff answer.
Awesome. Love that. I wish more of us would do that as well. Yeah, 100%.
Now I have to go the rest of this day and be nice to people. So I have to live that sort of thing. So that's the hard part.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Well, David, just remind the viewers. Sorry, let me do that bit again. So, David, as we wrap up, just remind the listeners, what is the book called and where can we get it from?
Perfect. So the book is Rewiring Your Mind for AI, How to Think, Work, and Thrive in the Age of Intelligence. It is available on Amazon. We have a German translation coming out here pretty soon. So it is available there. You can also get on the publisher's website, and we can put that link with the discount code in the comments as well. So I hope you enjoy it and would love to receive any feedback you have from it.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you for that. We'll definitely include that in the show notes. So, David, just want to thank you. It's been a pleasure getting to know you and hearing about your amazing book, and certainly given me a lot of food for thought. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
It's the end of another episode. Thank you so much for listening. Please do connect with me via LinkedIn and drop me a message and let me know your favorite takeaways from the episode. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Superpower School newsletter so that you can be notified of all future episodes. Simply visit the website www. It's the end of another episode. Thank you so much for listening. Please do connect with me via LinkedIn and drop me a message and let me know your favorite takeaways from the episode. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Superpower School newsletter so that you can be notified of all future episodes. Simply visit the website www.superpowers.school. Thank you once again. www.superpowers.school. Thank you once again.